Well, that sucked. Welcome in another edition of the Bleav in Mets podcast. No fancy intro from me. Jack McKessie, Chris Schubert here talking all things New York Mets. I'll do it because I believe I'm contractually obligated to ask you at the start of every show, even though I know the answer this time. Jack, how are you, my friend?
I'm so frustrated, Chris. It just feels like I'm in Groundhog Day watching the 2026 Mets, and it just feels like I'm watching the 2025 Mets all over again. I felt like I wasted my time today. It felt like the Groundhog Day, maybe not the best metaphor because today is April Fool's Day. That they were recording this Wednesday, April 1st. And I wish the Mets had been playing a prank on me with the way that they played today and throughout the series.
Yeah, today felt like an April Fool's joke, and what has felt like an April Fool's joke, I'll pull everybody behind the curtains here. This is the second time we're recording this podcast because 5 minutes into our first take, my computer shut down, just like the New York Mets offense shut down over the last two games of the series. They scored one run over their final 23 innings in this series with St. Louis. They're now 3-3 on the season, and it feels like, and I want to be careful, Jack. I don't want to overreact. I don't want to feel like this is just a continuation of the 2025 season. And I think that's what probably has most of us frustrated is that it feels so similar to the way that it did at the end of 2025. But this was a bad series for the Mets, both offensively and with mental miscues, both on the base paths, with Bo Bichette in this series, Francisco Lindor today forgetting how many outs there were, Luis Robert on back-to-back plays not playing center field very well. The team was out of shape to start this road trip. The bright spot, the pitching's been excellent. The pitching continues to be the strong spot of this team, both the starters and the bullpen. And I guess we can start talking about the one win the Mets had in this series, in which Clay Holmes made his first start of 2026. And he looked like the Clay Holmes of last year. It's kind of been the through line, right? David Peterson looked like the old version of himself. Kodai Senga looked like the old version of himself. Freddie Peralta's looked good through two starts. And for Clay Holmes, I thought just a great way to set himself up here for a good 2026. Got more strikeouts than we usually come to expect with him, ending up with 5. But it was the bread and the butter, right? It was the kick change. It was the sinker. It was generating the ground balls. And the Mets were able to win this one. It wasn't a great offensive performance. It was their series high 4 runs, though. And unfortunate that Clay Holmes couldn't get that last out in the 6th before giving up the home run, or else he could have completed 6 innings. But all in all, the best game of this series, obviously, for the New York Mets, and a good start to the year for Clay Holmes.
Yeah, we were this close to getting a Clay Holmes quality start, and it's a little frustrating, like you said, that Gorman got to him there in the 6th inning. But to have the kind of performance that he had and to see Tobias Myers is kind of like my guy in this bullpen right now because we only saw him for that initial outing, the 3 innings that he had on opening day so far before this first game of the series against the Cardinals. And man, I am a big fan of what he's bringing to the table in this bullpen. A multi-inning guy, super reliable. I like the way that he works through his arsenal, that rising fastball, like very effective pitcher despite not having the highest velo on the team. And I like you said, it just kind of is one small part of a greater theme that we're seeing so far in the 2026 Mets, and that's the pitching is really good. It's the offense that we still have questions about, and it's reminding me again of the 2025 Mets, where early in the season, the offense was struggling. We thought that the pitching was going to be the bigger question marks, where we weren't sure about David Peterson, we weren't sure about Sean Manaea, we weren't sure about Kodai Senga with the injuries. Offense didn't come through. The pitching came through last year. The same thing is happening this season. And looking at the box score, like you see 4 runs on 10 hits and you think, oh, they must have been stringing together some nice at-bats. They must have been keeping the line moving, getting guys on base and progressing. No, they finished the first game of the series despite the 4 runs, 1 for 14 with runners in scoring position. They score 1 run on the Bo Bichette ground out, another one on a walked-in run, and then Jared Young having a double, getting Brett Baty in from first base. So most of the game, they were not hitting situationally, and it's just kind of frustrating, even in a win, to see the same trends repeating themselves from last year.
Yeah, they were 1 for 29 in the entire series with runners in scoring position. The one hit came in the first game of this series. And, if you want to be optimistic, they didn't strike out a ton in this series, so they're putting the ball in play. And if you want to say there's some balls that aren't just finding the ground, they're getting unlucky. Listen, credit where credit is due. I mean, Mason Wynn is a vacuum at shortstop. I mean, the dude makes the hardest plays in the world look like their routine. I honestly think it's the closest, and I know it's a different position. It's the closest that I felt in a long time, like I'm watching somebody like Nolan Arenado play a position. Like, it is just automatic out there what he's able to do. And, again, they're putting the ball in play. Bichette drove in 2 runs in the first game of this series, and so you feel good about that. But it's just, they're just not stringing it together, right? At least in the opener against Pittsburgh, it was they're stringing them together and they're being productive, right? It's one thing to have a good at bat and not strike out and put the ball in play, but you got to get the results. And the last, really, since the opener against Pittsburgh, they haven't gotten a ton of the results, and that only continued throughout the course of the series. You mentioned Tobias Myers, and I wholeheartedly agree. He's starting to become like Max Kranick walked so Tobias Myers could run, right? I mean, it just feels like Max Kranick was that guy for us last year. And it feels like Tobias Myers. And I don't want to jump ahead, but he was trusted in the extra innings of this game instead of Luis Garcia. And all things considered, I thought did a great job. If Carson Bench can get to that ball, we may still be playing baseball with the way the Mets offense was conducting themselves today. And so he's been really good, and we know the Mets really like to have those multi-inning relievers that they can deploy in these high-leverage situations to kind of save some of their other high-leverage arms. And he was great today, and he was great in the first game of this series as well. The second game, it was a loss for the Mets.
I do want to mention one thing really quick in that first game. Notable note here, first save situation of the post-Edwin Diaz era, and I thought Devin Williams passed with flying colors.
Let me see. I want to read the text.
You should repeat the exact text that I sent you because I went in a little bit nervous. I don't know what to expect. We saw Devin Williams earlier in the season. He pitched in a tie game late. I don't recall which game of the Pirates series that was. This was the first save situation without Edwin Diaz, and it was an away game. First chance for Devin Williams to either make his mark or disappoint me. And
I love going into the live text messages because this is just like the raw in the moment. But these 3 texts in a row, comparing the Myers-Raley experience to Garcia Lovelady, laughing, least stressful save situation in recent memory, LOL. But you are 100% right. That, like, from the day prior where we've got Luis Garcia and Richard Lovelady out there for the team, to then go to Tobias Myers and Brooks Raley setting up Devin Williams, who looked just... And I didn't think his stuff was like super great, but he was still able to get 3 outs, and it was the most comfortable thing of all time. I mean, it was a great experience.
He had that last airbender, which was just like, whoa. But like for the most part, it was just kind of a routine working his way through the lineup, and it was just nice to see him get that strikeout to end it. It felt very like a good sign of things to come with Devin Williams on the Mets.
From an airbender to a ghost fork. Dare we say it? Kodai Senga is back. I'm going to read the text message. We're back, department, ? Kodai Senga is thinking of filing a claim. You sent that to me in the middle of his start. 6 innings, the 4 hits, the 2 earned runs. He struck out 9, walked 3. The command was an issue early, got himself into some early trouble, but he topped out at 99.2 miles per hour, one of the 5 fastest pitches that Kodai Senga has ever thrown. Shout out to Anthony DiComo for that stat. Early on, he was missing with the fastball up. The forkball, he was finding it. He was kind of burying them in the dirt a little bit too much instead of having them start at the bottom of the zone and at least be a little bit appetizing for the opposition. And I thought he settled in nicely to this start. And I'm sorry, but where he was unpitchable, sent down to the minors at the end of last season, you take this start 100 out of 100 times, and that is a start that is good enough for the Mets to win. 2 runs allowed, 6 innings. You're not asking your bullpen to do a lot. Your traditional 9 outs from the pen on any given night. You can't ask for any more than that. You got to win those games. And unfortunately, the Mets were unable to do it because, stop me if you've heard this before, they couldn't hit with runners in scoring position.
So, first 6-inning start by a Mets starter this year goes to Kodai Senga. And I said, Chris, coming into this series, I was fascinated to see how Senga pitched in his first start of the regular season because we said it coming into the season. Senga is the X factor of the rotation because we know that he can be an ace level starting pitcher. We saw it in bursts in his rookie season in 2023. We've seen it Since then, in small flashes, like the one start that we will always have in 2024, we saw it in the first couple of months of the 2025 season before his injury, and seeing him work his arsenal the way that he did, I Bleav he used his sweeper way more than he ever had in the past in this first start, and being able to see him use that to complement the fastball, to complement the forkball, it was really excellent to see. And if that's the level of performance that we can expect from our X Factor starting pitcher, I am crossing my fingers and hoping that the Mets offense going forward is going to back him up a little bit more than they did in this game, because anemic is the best word to use. 3 hits for the entire game, 0 for 4 with runners in scoring position. Didn't back up Senga, but having Senga have that kind of start with the uptick in velo, with the ghost fork working, really, really encouraging for me.
Well, yeah, and he battled out of trouble early on in the first inning without allowing the damage, and you could see that settle him down, because then he rolls back out there in the second inning and he strikes out the side. He dominated the bottom part of this lineup all throughout for the 9 strikeouts, and let's talk about it, because this is where the miscues really started for the Mets in the second game of this series, because you have Luis Robert on back-to-back plays, misplay a ball, misjudge it, takes a step in instead of taking a step out. That leads to an extra base hit, and then he throws the ball in and misses the cutoff guy, allowing, I think it was J.J. Weatherholt to advance to second base, setting up second and third. Whereas if you don't do that, when Herrera hits the double, maybe it's 1 run instead of 2. Now, again, you don't know at the time that the Mets offense is going to be this anemic, but 1-0 compared to 2-0, you're trying to keep every run off the board, and that could have been the difference. Unfortunately, the Mets didn't have a whole lot going offensively. They had 1 chance in this game. 1. That's it. I think it was the 6th inning of this game, they got the leadoff man on for the first time, and the only time they had it. Soto hit a double. Bichette walked. You're sitting first and second, nobody out. I mean, this is tailor-made for this New York Mets team to move guys over, get runs in, put pressure on this St. Louis bullpen that's kind of piecemealed together, and it's a fly out by Robert to center. And then Jared Young lines into the double play because Bichette gets caught leaning the one direction, and Mason Wynn makes a great play. And this is where the miscues kind of started for the Mets in this series, and that was it. They didn't get a base runner outside of a Simeon walk, and maybe I'm going to use a quick timeout here. Marcus Simeon, outside of O'Neal Cruz helping him out, what are we doing?
It's been really bad. It's been a really bad start to the season for Marcus Simeon.
It's interesting because he's actually working lengthy at bats, which is not normally what he does, yet he's just doing nothing with them. I can't tell you, I think it's 3 or 4 times this season he's gotten to a 3-2 count and then swings at a pitch that's like 27 feet outside the zone and just strikes out. It's like you did all this work. You battled back from 0-2, 1-2 to get yourself into a full count. It's a great at bat, and then you just lose complete command of the strike zone and just completely give away an at bat. He was the lone base runner they had after the 6th inning, and that was it. That was all she wrote in this game.
Yeah. It's hard to come away with a lot of positives from the second game of the series. Certainly none of them were from the offense, outside of Juan Soto is putting all of the demons of the early season 2025 behind him. He has continued to be the Mets' best hitter since, June of last season, and just consistently been a 1,000 plus OPS guy. I will continue to be optimistic if I'm going to take optimistic points from this game. It wasn't just the first inning that Senga struggled. It was like every odd numbered inning, like the first, the third, and the 5th inning were the shakiest by far. And then every follow-up inning after that, he was able to settle back down and be a lot more effective. And I don't know if that's about who was coming up in the order. I don't know if that's... There are a lot of different confounding factors that could be accounted for in that situation. But to have Senga battle through adversity from the first inning, the 3rd inning, and the 5th inning to give you a 6-inning start with the 9 strikeouts, 3 walks you'd like to see get cut down, and then Richard Lovelady, the Ramon Urias homer is whatever because he ended up saving the bullpen, which ended up being really important for the 3rd game. So if I'm going to be optimistic, the positive things we can take away from this game, the pitching is still a strong point for the early version of the 2026 Mets.
Yeah, I mean, it's been great. It's been the thing that's been keeping them in these games. And to your point about, Senga in this third, he worked around, back-to-back 2-out walks in the fifth that just, probably doomed his ability to go even deeper than he did in this game.
Yeah.
Because he got the first 2 outs of the fifth inning and then walked Herrera and walked Burleson, and that forced him to throw some extra pitches. He got out of it, but, that's the difference between finishing 6 and starting to steal some outs in the 7th inning for Carlos Mendoza. But yeah, I mean, the story in this game was Kodai Senga looked the closest we've seen to 2023 Kodai Senga in a really, really long time. And it's a loss. You hate that they got shut out. You hate that loss is on Kodai Senga's record. But boy, I don't know how you come out of that start feeling anything other than confident about what his season may look like moving forward. Now we get to the third game in this series, and I'll let you. I don't want to steal your thunder. You have described this. You have named this game, and so this game will always be remembered as the
Mets asleep game.
Everybody on the Mets falls asleep.
Everybody on the Mets fell asleep in this game, and it was like, I mean, Gary mentioned it multiple times in the broadcast. It was like they were under-caffeinated was the word that he used for this game, because the number of mental miscues from not like the young guys like Carson Benj, although his read on that last pop-up to right field was not ideal, but guys like Francisco Lindor, who is not the literal captain, but the de facto captain of this team, had multiple miscues in this game that didn't necessarily cost the Mets in the immediate short term, but like, you go to extra innings and it's 1-1. If he's not caught leaning on that pickoff move in the 6th inning right before Juan Soto hits the home run, it's a 2-1 game, or it's a 2-0 game at that point. Who knows how the rest of the game pans out? But that, and then almost worse than that, was not knowing how many outs there were
in the first inning. It's the first inning of the game, and Francisco Lindor forgets about how many outs there are. And look, I don't want to do the thing that I see a lot of people on social media do with Francisco Lindor and just get on him, because it's just everyone's favorite pastime apparently is to get on Francisco Lindor. But doesn't it feel like he tends to have one of these games every year? Like, it just feels like it just once a year you just have a game where he forgets, and that's going to happen over the course of 162. You can't be 100%. You can't play perfect every single game. But it just feels like it always comes at the worst possible time, and it compounds on itself. He gets picked off in a spot where now a home run is now just a 1-0 game instead of a 2-0 game. He forgets how many innings. And the one thing I will say, the one thing I appreciate about Francisco Lindor, did not make any excuses for it. He took full responsibility. He even went a step further and said, I'm the reason Freddie Peralta couldn't go deeper into this game, because if I get him out of that inning, those are a bunch of pitches he doesn't have to throw. And he's right. I mean, that inning gets extended because he forgets how many outs there are on what was the easiest double play in the world. No offense to either your or mine baseball skills, we could have turned that double play from that spot. Like, that's how easy it was to make that play.
Yeah,
and he just
did not move behind second base.
And he just didn't make the play, and now it forces Freddie to throw more pitches, and that stops him from going deep into the game. I thought Freddie was good today, was really good early, and then allowed some runners. I think he allowed 4 of the last 8 guys to face him to reach in the last couple of innings. But 7 strikeouts, the 2 walks were brutal. Allowed just the 1 earned run. I mean, yeah, you'd like more out of him. You'd like him to be able to finish, 6 innings, but again, he got it out in the first that he should have gotten, and he didn't get it, and that ran up his pitch count, and now he's at 92 pitches and he gets taken out of the game. So just again, they were just asleep at the wheel all over the place. And I can almost accept the bullpen having a bad day and you just blow a lead late, you lose 7-6. Like, okay, those things are going to happen. These types of losses, man, like we just weren't playing at 100% effort. We weren't 100% locked in. Like, we're not locked in when we're 1 for our last 1,000 with runners in scoring position. We're not locked in that despite playing some of the worst baseball, channeling back to 2025, we still have a chance to win this series and win this game. I mean, the first time I've gotten to do it this year. So just keep track. First time I've gotten to do it this year. We're on the road in extra innings and we can't even score a run. We can't even get a run across in extra innings twice. Like, what are we doing? And we got, for instance, Marcus Semien getting caught in a rundown. It helped move Alvarez over, but a bad read. Alvarez, the ball that gets away, gets caught in between, doesn't move over to third. Like, these are things, and I don't know where my frustration should be, Jack, because the coaches are different outside of Carlos Mendoza. Most of the players are different outside of Lindor, Soto, and Alvarez and Beatty. Like, Bo Bichette, He's new. Coaches are new. So this isn't an organizational like plague that is just dooming this team. Like they've changed so much, and yet they still play games like this where they just get in their own way. I'm trying to not overreact too much because we're 6 games into the season, and I think it'll be fine. But just weird for this team with all this new and the new culture that we've seen on display so many other times. Weird for them this early in the season to have a game like this, like a just mental lapse after mental lapse after mental lapse.
And you mentioned the Alvarez and the Simeon miscues on the base paths. I mentioned the Francisco Lindor miscue. The ABS challenges in this game were also just baffling to me.
And then Simeon gets called out on a pitch that you should challenge, and you don't have a challenge in your back pocket because we waste them in spots that just don't make any sense.
Yeah, like that's just another thing on top of it. Like, and even to go even further, Chris, like Juan Soto hitting that home run that was a absolute wall scraper. Like it was high and it was not necessary. It was a home run in, I think, 9 ballparks in Major League Baseball. Luckily, Busch Stadium was one of them. But he's standing at home plate. If that ball gets caught by the wind and bounces off of the wall a little bit, he's got a long single, or God forbid he gets thrown out at first base because he's just standing there. And like that's another potential miscue that he got saved by it hitting the foul pole or whatever, or whoever was playing right field not having it hit off his glove and come back into play. It's just like every little thing that the Mets could have done wrong in this game felt like they did it wrong. And to go back to the 2025 season again, and this is a weird game that I remember, but that I think 3rd game of the series against the Twins, it was also the 2nd series of the year. Very similar vibes where it was just like there was weather issues, like it was 40 degrees in Minnesota. Today in St. Louis, there was the rain delay. Like everyone just felt like they were playing an hour behind where the action was happening in the present. And it was just like, you have to be a pro baseball player and be ready for weird situations like rain delays. It was only an hour. It wasn't like they were sitting there for 3 hours and had to get rewarmed up, whatever. Everything just felt so sluggish from everyone in the lineup. And I will say, credit where credit is due, if I'm going to be optimistic and take one positive thing away from this game again, and you kind of alluded to it, the pitching was phenomenal throughout the game. Like outside of Freddie Peralta struggling late in his start, which is kind of his MO, the bullpen was excellent. And the only complaint that I have is everyone else sucked.
And here's what's so frustrating about it. You wasted a brilliant Kodai Senga start. You wasted Freddie Peralta giving you 5+ innings of 1-run baseball. Like we saw firsthand last year, the pitching can go at any time. Like it can just evaporate. And so you got to take advantage of these moments. And listen, the Cardinals, I think, are going to be a more competitive team than people think. I think they're just going to be in a lot of games because they've just got a lot of guys that are just excited and chomping at the bit, especially early in the season. But the Cardinals didn't overwhelm you in this series. You beat yourself. They scored 7 runs in 3 games. That's it. And you won one of those games. Because you scored, 6 runs? Like, that's the difference. That's the problem. And so, yeah, I mean, it was just a rough go of it. And the road trip will continue. It's 4 games out in San Francisco starting tomorrow night. Let's quickly do the preview. David Peterson against Robbie Ray. A good old-fashioned lefty off. You don't see those very often, but we love them when we do get them.
I don't know. The Mets against lefties is always a problem, it feels like. Although Mark Vientos, that was another bright spot today. Mark Vientos got his first start of the season playing first base and hit a double. Fingers crossed that he can continue that success against lefties.
Yeah, David Peterson, Robbie Ray in the opener. It'll be Nolan McLean against Tyler Malley in the 2nd game of the series on Friday. Clay Holmes against Landon Rupp in the 3rd game of the series on Saturday and on Sunday. I'll say it. I'm not afraid. Ace off. Kodai Senga, Logan Webb. Sunday, close out this road trip.
It's going to be interesting, man. Like, the Giants have had a weird start to the season, and it's partly because of...
They have a weird manager. They have a weird manager,
Tony Vitello.
Yeah, who just doesn't understand how to communicate with anybody.
So, we'll see. I mean, I'm hoping the Mets can take 3 out of these 4 games. They are on paper a better team than the San Francisco Giants, I think. And the pitching, if it can live up to what it's been for the first 6 games of the season, I think they largely outmatch the Giants. But this offense has got to start doing something, man. Like outside of Juan Soto, and honestly, Luis Robert has had a solid start to the season as well. But outside of those guys, like they just need to be better overall, and the situational hitting needs to be better.
Yeah, and like the Giants are no slouches. They've got Willie Adames, who's a really good player. Jung-Hoo Lee is a good young player. They've got some arms. Like Robbie Ray can make it difficult for the Mets. Logan Webb is an ace. The Giants have talent to be able to make this road trip really, really long for the New York Mets. Like, it can be really painful if the Mets don't get it in gear with runners in scoring position. Now, if you want to take the glass half full approach, Bo Bichette has been a great hitter with runners in scoring position throughout his entire career. Same thing for Juan Soto. Same thing for Francisco Lindor. You've got a bunch of guys on this team that have come through in the past, and so this may be just some bad luck going their way early, and you'll get the bounce back over the course of a long season. But yeah, baseball's back. We've played 6 games. We're kind of overreacting to every little thing right now because the season is so new and because it feels very similar to what we saw last year. Despite, again, I will continue to say this, they're not striking out as much. The ball is being put in play more. And so I don't want to say, hey, just keep doing that and some luck will go your way. But there is a case of just keep putting the ball in play and good things will start to happen. And so they've got to continue to have that approach. Need more from Marcus Semien because he's great defensively, but at some point he just becomes a zero in the lineup, and that's an unfortunate part. You need Francisco Alvarez. He is struggling to start the season. It looks like first half Francisco Alvarez, that long swing, he's kind of pulling off on stuff. It just doesn't look good. And so they just need to get some of these guys into gear. And I got to tell you, prediction ahead of time. The guy who has the best game on Thursday for the New York Mets in the opener of this series, Francisco Lindor. Like, that is the one thing I will guarantee is that he comes back and he has a great game in response to what happened here today on Wednesday.
I'm hoping for it. We've seen it in the past. You know, he's able to step up in big moments. I hope the ghost of the hotel door. I don't remember if that might have been in Sacramento.
No, that was L.A. against the Dodgers. The hotel
was LA.
door.
Okay.
So we're okay. We're okay. And
Still California, but we're okay for the most part there. I feel like for Lindor, I've seen some of the hamate stuff pop up. Like, I feel like he's hitting the ball pretty well, like making good contact. The power is clearly not fully there yet. Still waiting for home runs for a lot of guys on this roster, but him most of all.
I mean, Soto's first home run was only today, right? So
yeah.
So yeah, still waiting for some power up and down the lineup. Before Soto's home run, they hit like 1 home run in their last 4 games. It was the Robert walk-off.
Yeah, it was 3.
Pittsburgh.
It was 3 in the first 5, and 2 were on opening day.
Yeah, I mean, the only 4 guys that have hit home runs for the Mets are Soto, Benj, Alvarez, and Robert. That's it. That's all they've gotten so far from the power department. So still looking for Bichette, still looking for Lindor, still looking for Brett Beatty, looking for Mark Vientos. You're looking for Jorge Polanco, guy who nearly hit 30 home runs last year. Just looking for all these guys to kind of get into gear and just the offense looking like what it's supposed to look like and what it looked like in the opener against Pittsburgh. We're back after the San Francisco series to hopefully recap a much better series for the New York Mets, a much better offensive approach. Hopefully the pitching can continue to be its dominant self here to start the 2026 campaign. If you want to watch this show, you can do so over on our YouTube channel. Just search Jack McKessy, McKessy. The march to 250 subscribers before the All-Star break is on. Help us make that happen. If you're listening to us in the podcast feed, rate, review, subscribe to the show if you haven't done so already, and do us a favor, share an episode, this one preferably, with a friend, with a fellow Mets fan. Introduce them to the podcast. A disappointing one for the New York Mets. The offense, it struggles. It is looking like 2025 all over again, but the good news, plenty of baseball still left to play, and I think it's a good thing that the Mets are right back at it. No time to dwell, no time to think. A 4-game series with San Francisco starts tonight as you're listening to this podcast. It's going to do it for us here on another edition of the Bleav in Mets pod. We're back to break down all things against the Giants here later on. Until then, let's go Mets.
Let's go Mets.